To understand the Islamic Republic of 2026, one must first discard the lens of modern politics and look through the dust of 3 millennia. Iran is not a nation-state in the Westphalian sense, it is a civilization state. This distinction is crucial. When the Grand Masters in Tehran sit at the diplomatic table, they aren't thinking in election cycles of 4 years like their counterparts in Washington or London. They are thinking in centuries. The Persian Gambit is rooted in the concept of Iran Shah, the idea of a central Persian heartland that must influence its surroundings to survive. In 2026, this ancient instinct has been digitized and weaponized. We see a Tehran that has mastered the art of strategic patience, a psychological warfare technique where they absorb immense pressure, sanctions, assassinations, and cyber attacks, only to strike back at the exact moment their opponent tires. Imagine a chessboard where one player has an infinite clock. That is Iran. They have watched empires rise and fall at their borders. The Macedonians, the Mongols, the British, and most recently, the American presence in Iraq and Afghanistan. Each time, the Persians waited. They analyzed the weaknesses of raw power versus local influence. In this chapter, we explore how this historical DNA allowed a sanctioned, isolated nation to build a land bridge from the Zagros Mountains to the Mediterranean Sea. We aren't just looking at a map, we are looking at the mental fortress of a leadership that believes time is their greatest ally and the West's greatest enemy. The year 2026 marks a terrifying milestone in the history of the atom. For decades, the world focused on a single number, 60%. That was the level of uranium enrichment that Tehran reached, a hair's breadth away from the 90% required for a nuclear warhead. But the true Persian Gambit wasn't about the bomb itself. It was about threshold status. To understand the science, we must look at the geography of Fordow. Buried deep under a mountain of solid rock, shielded from the most powerful bunker buster bombs in the American arsenal, thousands of IR-6 centrifuges spin in a silent, high-speed ballet. This is not just engineering, it is escalation dominance. By maintaining the capacity to build a weapon within weeks, the so-called breakout time, Tehran has achieved the benefits of a nuclear deterrent without actually possessing one. This is the ultimate paradox. If they build the bomb, they face a world-ending war. If they abandon the program, they lose their leverage. So they sit in the gray zone. In 2026, this has forced a new normal. Every move in the Strait of Hormuz, every drone strike in the Levant is dictated by the silent threat of the atom. We must analyze the Stuxnet legacy, how the 2010 cyber attack by the US and Israel didn't stop the program, but instead accelerated Iran's transition into a cyber nuclear power. They learned that digital walls are as important as concrete ones. Today, we look at the secret metals lab and the delivery systems, the Khaibar and Sejil missiles that can reach any capital in Europe or the Middle East. The atom is the queen on the chessboard, and in 2026, the queen is perfectly positioned to protect the king. To the untrained eye, Iran's military power is measured in aging tanks and Soviet-era jets. But in the synaptic reality of 2026, Iran's true strength lies in a revolutionary military doctrine known as forward defense. This is the masterwork of the late Qasem Soleimani, and it has transformed the Middle East into a complex web of Iranian influence. Tehran has mastered a skill that no other nation on earth possesses: the ability to build, fund, and command foreign legions that are ideologically loyal to the supreme leader but locally rooted in their own countries. Consider the axis of resistance. This isn't just a loose collection of militias, it is a synchronized multinational army. In Lebanon, Hezbollah has evolved from a guerrilla group into a regional power with an arsenal of precision-guided missiles that can overwhelm any missile defense system. In Yemen, the Houthis have turned the Red Sea into a Persian choke point, using Iranian drone technology to disrupt global trade at a fraction of the cost of a traditional navy. In Iraq and Syria, the Popular Mobilization Forces and various advisors have created a contiguous land bridge, a strategic corridor stretching from Tehran to the shores of the Mediterranean. But why does Iran do this? The answer lies in their trauma from the Iran-Iraq War of the 1980s. They learned that they cannot fight a conventional war against a world backed by Western technology. Their solution was to move the battlefield. In 2026, if an enemy thinks about striking Tehran, they must first calculate the cost of a simultaneous war in Beirut, Baghdad, Damascus, and Sana'a. It is the ultimate insurance policy. Iran has outsourced its security to a shadow army that operates in the gray zones of international law. They fight with asymmetrical weapons, suicide drones, sea mines, and IEDs. It is a war of 1,000 cuts, where the goal isn't to win a decisive battle, but to make the cost of opposing Iran too high for any Western democracy to sustain. In this chapter, we deconstruct the Quds Force, the elite unit that acts as the brain of this hydra, and how they've turned the Middle East into a strategic shield for the Persian heartland. In the year 2026, the walls of the digital prison are not made of stone, but of code. Iran has emerged as a global pioneer in what is now called digital sovereignty. After being the target of the world's first digital weapon, the Stuxnet worm, the leadership in Tehran realized that the internet was the greatest threat to their survival. It was a window through which Western soft power could infect the minds of their youth. Their response was the creation of the National Information Network, NIN, often called the Halal Internet. This is not just a firewall, it is a parallel universe. The NIN is designed to keep Iranian data, commerce, and communication within the country's borders, making it immune to external sanctions or global internet shutdowns. But the Silicon Veil has a dual purpose. While it protects the state from the West, it also projects Iranian power outward. By 2026, Iran's cyber battalions, like the Ashiane or the Cyber Army, have become world-class predators. They don't just deface websites, they infiltrate the industrial control systems of Western power grids, water treatment plants, and financial hubs. This is the new Synaptic war. It's a battlefield where a 19-year-old programmer in a basement in Karaj can do more damage to the US economy than a squadron of fighter jets. We must analyze how Iran uses digital authoritarianism to maintain internal order, using AI-driven facial recognition and social credit-style monitoring to suppress dissent before it even reaches the streets. But there is a glitch in the system. The same technology that allows for control also creates a digital underground. Millions of young Iranians use sophisticated VPNs and decentralized networks to bypass the Silicon Veil, creating a hidden, hyper-connected society that lives in the shadows of the state's digital fortress. In this chapter, we explore the high-stakes game of cat and mouse between the state's censors and the cyber revolutionaries who are fighting to break free from the Silicon Veil.
In the orthodox world of global finance, a country under the weight of maximum pressure sanctions should, by all accounts, collapse. Its currency should be worthless, its industry stagnant, and its oil locked underground. But in 2026, Iran has turned the resistance economy from a desperate slogan into a sophisticated, multi-layered machine of survival. Tehran hasn't just bypassed the global financial system, they've built a shadow version of it. To understand this, we must look at the Ghost Fleet. In the dark waters of the Persian Gulf and the South China Sea, hundreds of aging oil tankers operate with their transponders turned off, switching flags like chameleons and transferring millions of barrels of Iranian crude in the middle of the night. This is the lifeblood of the regime. By selling oil at a discount to an energy-hungry China, Iran has ensured a steady flow of petro-yuan, effectively decoupling its survival from the US dollar. But the Persian Gambit in the economy goes deeper than just oil. In 2026, Iran has become a master of clandestine procurement networks. From Dubai to Istanbul and from Singapore to Panama, thousands of front companies, often managed by the Revolutionary Guard, IRGC, operate as the state's lungs. They import dual-use technology, medical supplies, and luxury goods, weaving a web so complex that Western intelligence agencies find it nearly impossible to untangle. They have weaponized the gray market. Furthermore, Iran's integration into the BRICS alliance and the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, SCO, has provided a diplomatic and economic shield. By aligning with Russia and China, Tehran is no longer a pariah state, but a crucial node in a new anti-Western world order. They are trading drones for fighter jets and oil for infrastructure. In this chapter, we deconstruct how the bazaar mentality, an ancient culture of trade and negotiation, has been applied to 21st century sanctions. We explore the smuggler state phenomenon, where the line between government policy and organized crime becomes blurred, all in the name of national survival. The resistance economy is not about growth. It is about proving that the American financial hammer can no longer break the Persian anvil.
This is the most human chapter. While the grandmasters in Tehran focus on nuclear centrifuges and shadow militias, a much more unpredictable force is brewing within their own walls. This is the demographic fault line. In 2026, the Islamic Republic is a gerontocracy, a government of old men ruling over one of the youngest and most educated populations in the Middle East. Over 60% of Iranians are under the age of 30. They are the children of the sanctions, but they are also the children of the VPN. This generation, the Iranian Gen Z, lives in a state of permanent duality. By day, they navigate the strict codes of the Islamic State, but by night, or behind the blue light of their smartphones, they live in a hyper-liberal, globalized world. They don't remember the 1979 revolution, they only know its consequences: inflation, isolation, and a stifling social atmosphere. The 2022 Woman Life Freedom protests were not just a flash in the pan, they were the first major tremor of an earthquake that is still unfolding in 2026. The synaptic tension here is profound. The state uses the most advanced AI surveillance and facial recognition technology, often imported from East Asia, to monitor every strand of hair and every rebellious tweet. Yet the youth have developed a subterranean culture. From underground techno parties in the Tehran suburbs to secret crypto mining farms and decentralized activist networks, they are building a society that the regime can no longer see or control. This isn't just about freedom in the Western sense, it's about identity. The young Iranian of 2026 is proud of their 3,000-year-old Persian heritage, but tired of the 45-year-old ideological straitjacket. We must analyze the brain drain, the tragic exodus of Iran's brightest scientists and engineers, and what it means for a country that is losing its future to save its past. In this chapter, we look at the silent rebellion, the millions of small acts of defiance that are eroding the foundations of the state. If the Persian Gambit fails, it won't be because of a foreign bomb. It will be because the players on the inside decided they no longer wanted to play the game. The final battle for Iran isn't being fought in the Strait of Hormuz, but in the hearts and minds of a generation that has already moved beyond the digital prison.
The board is set. The king is protected by a shield of atoms and a shadow army. But the ground beneath the board is shifting. In the Persian Gambit, every move has a cost. The question for 2026 is, how much longer can the mastermind keep the pieces in place? Stay synaptic. Stay real.